It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday morning. We were just finishing breakfast when the knock came. Not a friendly knock, one of those loud, aggressive bangs that make your heart jump. I opened the door, and standing there were two men in security uniforms, no badges, no names, just clipboards, sunglasses, and smug expressions. They said they were part of the HOA enforcement team. We'd had minor issues before grass, a little too long, a light left on past curfew. But this felt different. They weren't asking questions. They were giving orders. My wife, Jen, stepped forward, calm but alert. She's not one to back down, especially when something feels off. She asked for ID, something official. Instead, one of them reached for something clipped to his belt. At first, I thought it was a radio. Then came the crackle of static and a flash of metal. That's when it clicked. He was holding a taser. A taser, on our front porch. Pointed at her. What they didn't know was that Jen wasn't just any homeowner. She's former Special Forces, highly trained, highly aware, and not the type to get rattled. What they also didn't realize, she wasn't alone. Her old unit was in town for a private gathering that weekend, and let's just say, they were watching everything from less than 100 feet away. Unmarked cars, tactical eyes, calm fingers already resting near gear that these fake HOA enforcers had no clue existed. Things were about to flip fast. But just as Jen took a single step forward, something happened that none of us expected. It shifted everything in a direction none of us saw coming. And that's where this story really begins. The second Jen took that step forward, one of the guys twitched like he wasn't sure if he should fire the taser or back off. That moment of hesitation told us everything. This wasn't about a neighborhood rule. These guys weren't trained professionals. They were trying to look official, but their hands were shaking, their gear mismatched, and their eyes darted around like they knew they were being watched. And they were at sea about 2 hours earlier. Jen had gotten a weird message from a neighbor down the block. Someone else had been approached by these so-called HOA officers. Same story, demands, threats, and no real explanation. That neighbor had quietly warned us something felt off. Jen didn't say much at the time, but I saw the look in her eyes. That quiet, calculating mode she used to get into back in her active duty days. That's when she called her team. Most of them had arrived by then, blending into the neighborhood like regular visitors. One jogged past with a dog. Another was pretending to tinker with a car. All former Special Forces, all watching, all ready. Jen never needed to raise her voice. Her body language alone said, "I've got this." The two fake officers had no clue they were surrounded. They kept up their act, but their nerves were giving them away. One tried to say something about a property violation, a satellite dish that apparently broke some outdated rule. But we don't even have a dish. That's when I knew this was more than HOA harassment. Something else was going on, and just as I was about to say something, we heard the faintest click. Not from Jen, not from me, but from somewhere behind them. It was the kind of sound only trained ears catch. A warning. Something much bigger was coming. The sound came again, soft, deliberate, like the cock of a weapon or the adjusting of a scope. The two so-called HOA enforcers froze. Their heads jerked slightly, like they'd heard it too, but weren't sure where it came from. Jen didn't move. She just kept her eyes locked on them, shoulders square, hands still relaxed at her sides. I've seen that look before, back when she'd be on the edge of a mission. Calm on the outside, calculating everything in real time. Then, without warning, one of the guys tried to recover the upper hand. He barked something about us being in violation of Code 14A, whatever that was, and said if we didn't comply, they'd escalate. But his voice cracked halfway through the threat. That crack gave away the truth. He was scared. Not scared of us. scared of something else. Maybe scared of whoever sent him here. That's when things started clicking in my head. This wasn't just a power-hungry HOA committee playing dress-up. These guys were doing someone else's dirty work. But who? And why us? Jen's friend Alicia, who'd been casually leaning against our neighbor's fence, slowly pulled out her phone and snapped a picture. No flash, no sound. Just enough to catch one of their name tags. The shorter guy noticed. His whole face changed, like he realized for the first time that maybe they weren't the ones in control after all. Across the street, a black SUV that hadn't been there this morning suddenly pulled off the curb and disappeared. No plates, tinted windows, and no one saw who was driving. That's when we started putting the pieces together. There was something deeper behind this fake enforcement visit. Property files had gone missing from the HOA portal last week. Jen had been asking too many questions about a recent land survey. And then suddenly, here we were, standing face to face with two nervous men holding a taser and a clipboard, acting like they belonged. But this wasn't about a satellite dish. It wasn't even about HOA rules. This was personal. The air between us and those two HOA officers grew heavier by the second. Their forced confidence was crumbling, replaced by nervous glances toward the street where that black SUV had vanished. Jen's eyes narrowed as she subtly shifted her stance, signaling to her team without a word. Every muscle in her body was tense, ready to react, but she stayed calm, the kind of calm that only comes from knowing exactly what's coming next. One of the fake officers stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Listen, you don't want this to get messy," he said, voice low but shaky. "We're just doing our job." But the way he said it didn't convince anyone. It sounded like a threat disguised as a warning, and the desperation behind it was obvious. Suddenly, the quiet hum of the neighborhood was broken by the distant sound of tires, screeching fast, sharp, and too close for comfort. From around the corner, a second black SUV appeared, headlights off, moving slowly but with purpose. My heart raced. Jen's hand moved just slightly toward her side pocket, where she kept a small, tactical tool not for attack, but for protection. Her team, scattered discreetly nearby, began closing in, slipping out from their covers like shadows ready to merge into the night. No one spoke. No one moved too fast. It was a silent countdown to whatever was about to explode right here on our quiet street. The two fake officers exchanged a quick look, their bravado gone. They realized they were outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered, but what choice did they have? The tension was unbearable, a moment stretched thin between what could happen and what must be prevented. And then, just as Jen took a decisive step forward, a voice crackled out of nowhere, voice we didn't expect. It changed everything. The voice crackling through the quiet wasn't from Jen's team or from the fake HOA officers. It came from somewhere behind us, cold and controlled, slicing through the tension like a knife. "Stand down," it said. Everyone froze. Even Jen paused, her eyes scanning the street, trying to locate the source. That voice didn't belong to anyone we knew. It was unfamiliar, but there was authority in it, like someone who expected obedience without question. Before we could react, headlights flared from the shadows, revealing a sleek black drone hovering silently above the street. Its camera lens locked onto us, its presence impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the second SUV came to a stop, and out stepped a man in a crisp suit, eyes sharp, movements deliberate. He wasn't a neighbor. He wasn't security. He was something else entirely. The fake HOA officers visibly paled, their earlier confidence shattered. The suited man pulled out a badge, no HOA logo, no police emblem, just a plain, official-looking ID with a symbol none of us recognized. "You're interfering with an active investigation," he said calmly, but with an edge that brooked no argument. Step aside. That threw everything into chaos. We had thought the conflict was just about some fake HOA enforcers harassing us. But now it was clear we were caught in something much bigger. Surveillance, secrets, power plays beyond any neighborhood dispute. Jen's team instinctively tightened their formation. But the man's voice echoed again. This isn't a game. Back off or face consequences you can't handle. The stakes just skyrocketed. What was supposed to be a simple defense of our home had turned into a high-stakes standoff involving unknown players with unknown agendas. And with every second ticking by, the question wasn't just who was watching, but who was pulling the strings behind the scenes. We were no longer just defending our front porch. We were in the middle of a dangerous game, and the next move could change everything. The suited man's calm didn't last long. Jen's team shifted forward, ready to protect, but she raised a hand a signal to hold. The moment snapped like a wire under pressure. Jen stepped in front, her voice steady but firm. "Who are you? And why are you sending fake HOA cops after us?" For a long second, he just stared. Then, almost reluctantly, he pulled back his jacket to reveal a concealed earpiece and a small body cam clipped to his collar. "I work for a federal task force," he said quietly. "We've been investigating illegal surveillance and property data theft in this neighborhood. The fake HOA officers were part of a covert operation gone rogue, trying to scare residents." Into silence. Jen's eyes narrowed. "So you used us as bait?" He hesitated, but nodded. "You and your team's military background made you the perfect eyes on the ground. We needed to confirm the extent of the threat. But someone's been playing both sides. That black SUV is linked to a private contractor hired by corrupt interests." The tension broke like a thunderclap. The HOA cops weren't just bullies, they were pawns in a bigger, darker game. Jen's team stepped forward, ready to assist with the investigation. The federal agent pulled out his phone, sending coordinates and evidence to his command. Just as we thought the nightmare was unraveling, the agent's phone beeped a single alert, flashing red. His face went pale. "There's more," he said. "Someone just accessed the security cameras in your house, and the signal is..." Inside, before anyone could react, the lights flickered and went out. In the sudden darkness, a new figure emerged from the shadows behind us, a woman, calm and composed, with a familiar smirk. Jen froze. "It's been a long time, partner," she said softly. The room held its breath. The final twist wasn't a stranger. It was someone from Jen's past, someone who knew all her secrets and had been pulling strings all along. The woman stepped forward into the faint glow of a nearby porch light, revealing a face I hadn't seen in years, Maya, Jen's former partner from their Special Forces days. I could see the tension ripple through Jen's body, but her voice stayed steady. "Maya, what are you doing here?" Maya's eyes didn't waver. "I'm here because the line between friend and enemy has blurred. The people behind those fake HOA enforcers wanted to take you down. Jen, they knew what you could uncover. I was sent to make sure that didn't happen. But I had to get close first." Jen's team instinctively moved to surround Maya, but Jen held up a hand. "We need answers, not more enemies." With a deep breath, Maya explained how the corruption ran deeper than any of us imagined. Powerful figures were manipulating property records to hide illegal activities, and they were using intimidation tactics disguised as HOA enforcement to silence anyone who asked questions. Maya had been working undercover to expose the whole operation from the inside, as the federal agent connected with his team. We all realized this wasn't just about us, it was about standing up to a hidden threat targeting communities everywhere. Jen and her team agreed to help bring the corrupt network to light. Combining their military expertise with federal resources, the tension slowly dissolved, replaced by a sense of purpose. What started as a terrifying confrontation had turned into a mission to protect not just our home, but the truth. Looking back, the biggest lesson was clear. Appearances can be deceiving. The HOA cops were never about neighborhood rules. They were part of something far darker. And sometimes, the people you least expect hold the key to uncovering that darkness. In the end, standing together made all the difference. Our quiet street would never be the same, but we had found strength in trust, teamwork, and courage. And that was the real victory.